Watch KSTV weeknights at 7:30 and 11 Eastern, and anytime with Insight on Demand on Channel 103.
We are joined by Ross Turner. Ross, welcome again. How's the experience going with the casting call so far?
It's going great. I'm back here. You haven't kicked me out yet, so I guess it's a good thing.
Are you finding like women are throwing themselves at you? Men want to be you, autographs, stuff like that when you're out in public?
Some old woman threw her panties at me walking in the door. I was like, what is these? I'm not sure what to do with these. Yeah.
Let's get to the starting lineup. Now, there's no question that it's an uphill battle at the University of Kentucky to compete on the football field year in and year out in the SEC. But just how hard is it? Well, ESPN rated the UK job as the 13th best in the conference, or second worst, depending on how you look at it, ahead of only Vanderbilt. The reasoning behind the low ranking is not just because every other team scored so well, but also because UK lacks solid local recruiting base, and they live in the shadow of the basketball program at the University of Kentucky. But Ross, UK football's troubles, not new. They found a way to be successful for a couple of years. That's kind of how they go. They'll have 3-4 years of success, struggle for some time. Is it really that bad of a job, though? 13th best job in the SEC. You think that's the right place for it?
I'm surprised we're 13th and not 14th.
Yeah.
But I think the question is, who the heck do we beat? Which Vanderbilt, obviously. But ESPN put out the same poll with the facility rankings not too long ago. And if you remember back, I think UK was right at 13, right in front of Vanderbilt.
So, I actually kind of agree with you. I'm surprised Vanderbilt, honestly, isn't ahead of UK. I think UK, I don't think it's a job where people can't win. But if you look at Vanderbilt in Tennessee, they have Memphis they can pull recruits out of. They can pull out of Nashville. Nashville, I think is one of my favorite cities in the country. It's a great place to live. I'm surprised, honestly, that Vanderbilt's not higher, but it speaks to, I think, the SEC, how hard it is to compete. When you're Joker Phillips, recruiting is very important. You got to find the guys out of state. How does he find ways to be competitive and build momentum this season coming up?
I think that's the $1,000,000 question for Joker to answer this year. I find it funny that, people from Vanderbilt, they kind of expect to lose. They know. They're like, all right, we're Vanderbilt. We're not a great football program. But, if you look at the paychecks, who's getting paid more here? I think Vanderbilt's getting paid more than Joker right here. And so that's kind of tough to swallow. And along with the facilities, it's a tough issue for Joker there.
There are a lot of pieces that have to be put in place to be competitive, and they don't, there's issues in each one in terms of getting facilities and everything else. But Joker over the past couple of weeks has pulled together some nice recruits, is helping build that class. Do you think that builds him any goodwill as he heads into the season trying to coach for his job?
I hope so, but there's a lot on the line. He's kind of on the chopping block. He needs something big to happen this year, and so hopefully these new recruits and some of the veterans that he has really make a stance on the field and prove that Joker has what it takes to coach here.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on Joker entering the season. Now, on the basketball side of things, UK released a non-conference basketball schedule yesterday, and one of the highlights was a meeting with the Duke Blue Devils in Atlanta. And now today we've learned a few more details about that game. The Champions Classic matchup will cap a 24-hour basketball marathon with a 9 p.m. tip-off at the Georgia Dome. Both teams will enter the game ranked in the top 10 most likely. Kentucky fans have wanted Duke for a long time, Ross, and it's always every year, well, we can beat Duke. Even when Duke won the title that year, we were a better team than Duke. Are you excited about this matchup?
I am excited. I don't think it's as big of a matchup as everybody's anticipating. Duke lost a lot last year with Plumlee and Rivers being gone. But you also look at, we're going to Catlanta, and UK is, 24-4 in Catlanta. I think the last time we lost was the Sheree lane violation game in 2007. So, I feel like it's not as big of a game of people hyping it up to be. I think Louisville's a bigger game when you're looking at that. But it's fun because of the rivalry, and, we like to stick it to Duke anytime we can.
Like you said, Atlanta's almost a home game for Kentucky. Very similar to how Duke is when they play in New Jersey, in East Rutherford, New Jersey. They get a great crowd there. So Kentucky will probably have that advantage. Duke, like you said, lost some key players. They have a lot of young guys that kind of haven't proven themselves, but came out of high school with a lot of a high ranking. But when you look at that matchup, is that the matchup where you think Kentucky really makes a statement early on, or is it down the line? Because that schedule yesterday didn't have a lot of opportunities to really flex your muscles and show yourself. Does that make that more critical playing Duke?
Well, I'm really excited for that Northwood game. It's going to be a big game. I'm painting up already. But no, I think it is a huge game. That's a big rival matchup there, nationally televised. And like you said, it kicks off the 24-hour marathon there. And a lot of people will be watching and seeing how John Calipari's new freshman class is coming in and gelling together. So yeah, I think it's a huge game. Is is it the game breaker of the season? I don't think so, but it's a good start to the season.
Yeah. You mentioned the Northwood game. I found out yesterday that Northwood was in Florida. I lived in Florida for 6 years, and I've never heard of Northwood, so I'm also anxious to find out the mystery that is Northwood. Now, the loss to Nigeria Sunday ended the Dominican Republic's hopes for their first Olympic bid, and it appears to may have also ended the John Calipari era with the team. Calipari told Andy Katz, quote, "We didn't get where we wanted to, but I'm hoping that we've turned a generation of athletes onto basketball. It's been a baseball nation, and we were able to help the federation and the country." He later added, "I'm not ready to say what I'm going to do. It's been fun, but it takes a lot of time." Now, he's going to coach the team one last time tomorrow night. They're going to play an exhibition with Team USA. Do you think John Calipari, it sounds to me like he's ready to walk away from that? Is that the impression you got here in those statements, that he's done with the Dominicans, was a fun run, see you later?
Kind of, not really. I think he's setting somebody else up, and that person is Orlando Antigua. I think he is kind of dipping his feet in the international waters with, USA ball possibly in his future. Coach K is getting really old, probably, gonna die over here soon or something. I'm not sure. but I think that's something he has in mind as the coach USA. And I think this is a perfect handoff for Orlando to get in there, maybe get in the coaching scene somewhere else other than Kentucky and as a head coach. And so I think he's going to pass the torch. I think in his mind he's helping somebody else out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that he's positioning himself he's coaching internationally. That roster in 4 years could have some serious John Calipari flavor to it. DeMarcus Cousins is already one of the best big men in the NBA, which is a whole other rant I could go off on. But he could play his way onto that team. Anthony Davis maybe be there, Derrick Rose, John Wall. Then you look at guys that are there coming up out of high school at Kentucky now, guys just going to the league. There could be a lot of guys on that team. Do you think, John Calipari's had this perception for so long in basketball circles that a lot of people don't like him. The people that like him absolutely love him. Do you think that he's a guy that could lead the country, or do you think there's too much controversy surrounding him?
Just like you said, look how many players from John Calipari are playing. I mean, it's going to be the John Calipari USA Olympic team. I mean, a little hyphen there.
Sponsored by Orange Leaf, right?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I think John Calipari is motivated by the haters, and, he's out to prove the haters wrong. So I think it's a perfect seat for him right there, and I think it's a perfect transition from the Coach K era of coaching the Olympics. So I think it fits him perfect.
And the good news for Coach Cal is you get more free sweatsuits. And he's a guy that absolutely loves his off-season sweatsuit, so I think he'll end up there. Now, before John Calipari headed to Vegas for the scrimmage with Team USA, he stopped in Lexington to work with the team, and UK Athletics shared some of the notes from practice. Again, the big story, Kyle Wiltshire. This is kind of what we've heard since the offseason started, that he is not only looking like he's ready to take the next step as a leader, but he's more athletic, he's playing more physical. Are you buying the Kyle Wiltshire hype?
I am. I'm ready to see the Kyle Wiltshire transition to the actual court and let me see some of this. But I think he's got a lot to prove, and I think he's got more weight on his shoulders, so he's going to have the ability to be a little more flexible on the court. I think John Calipari expects more from Kyle, so I think last year's role is a little different than this year's role. There's a lot more expected out of Kyle, so hopefully we see the new transition in the game.
And another guy who's going to be counted on inside, looks like, is Willie Cauley-Stein, who's also impressed. We had Eric Lindsay on here from CoachCal.com, and I asked him if Cal was for real, because Cal sometimes just talks guys up. And he said he was. He said Willie Cauley-Stein's looked good. Do you expect him to be able to contribute this season?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. He's a top recruit, and I mean, when Cal brings somebody in and he boasts about him, for the most part, they usually show what they have to offer. So, I mean, if in Cal, I trust, Yeah. I mean, if Cal likes him, I love him.
Real quick, most important player to next year's success, most critical player?
I got to go with Ryan Harrow. Cal's a point guard guy, and we're a point guard team, and I think he's going to help mesh all that together.
I agree with you. Now, Andrew Wiggins is regarded by some as the best high school player, regardless of class. There are some rumors that he could reclassify from 2014 to 2013. Today's high school coach said that's untrue. Reclassification, it's kind of a new thing, it seems like. Nerlens Noel, of course, benefited Kentucky, but Andrew Wiggins is a phenomenal player. What do you think about him possibly fitting into that 2013 class?
Anybody that can make LeBron get out of his chair sitting there off an alley-oop, I mean, I'm out of my chair, and I'm all for him. I think I don't think it's the right move for people. I think they should stay and track in school like they're supposed to be. But he's shown that he can play at that level, so, I mean, more power to him.
I actually heard somebody in Lexington say this week that they have a good source on this. I don't know how true it is, that Nerlens Noel might not be a one-and-done player for that reason. Came in early, wants to work on his offensive game. To me, sounds crazy, but who knows? That could be a story to follow.